Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. My name's Radha, and I'm here with our family of seekers. We have a couple that are freshly back from pilgrimage, so we should get some fresh insights today. Looking forward to being here with you all and studying the Gita as we start the ninth chapter. So we're getting pretty deep into the heart of the bhakti section. This is actually the perfect chapter to start right when you get back from pilgrimage. It's called The Most Confidential Knowledge. And what's happening is that as we're flowing through the Gita, as we're going through the Gita, we're getting deeper and deeper into this transcendental knowledge. And in that, Krishna is revealing himself. Krishna is a name for God. Krishna is a name for God. He's revealing himself more and more. And that's what we're getting into today, the ninth chapter. We're going to do two verses in the ninth chapter. But before we start, let's go ahead and start with our prayers. Jennifer is going to say our prayers for us today.
Om Maganatimirandasha, Gananjana Shalakaya, Chakshur Militam Jena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vancha Kalpatarubhischa, Kripasin Hubiyebascha, Patitanam Pavanev Bayo, Vashnev Bayo Namo Namaha.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. So before we start, just to give a little bit context of where we've been, a little bit more context of where we've been and where we're going. We've talked a lot before about how the structure of the Gita. It has 18 chapters. The first six are more about karma yoga. The middle six are more about bhakti yoga. And the last six are more about jnana yoga. Okay, so we're in the heart again of the bhakti yoga section. And if we remember where we left off in chapter 8, Krishna explained, kind of in the middle of chapter 8, he explained that bhakti's easy. If we remember that, he called it easy. And that it's complete in results, which means that by practicing bhakti, we can attain everything that's achieved by study, by sacrifice, by meditation, basically any other path. Bhakti is like you get it all. And ultimately, if you practice bhakti, you'll reach Krishna's eternal abode. So building on that in chapter 9, Krishna's opening, or the chapter opens with what's called, again, confidential knowledge. So this isn't just about knowledge about his greatness. It's knowledge about the power of love. Right? That the Supreme Lord, the one who controls the whole universe, becomes conquered by the love of his devotees. And that's why it's confidential. Right? It's not a topic that anybody could understand. You have to be kind of like predisposition to this conception of personal divinity to really be able to kind of relish this. So this chapter begins by showing Krishna's inconceivable relationship with the material world and ends by revealing the sweetness of his personal relationship with those who love him. So it's really beautiful. This is kind of where philosophy is starting to turn into intimacy, and knowledge is kind of becoming love. That's where we're going, and that's the journey of the Gita. And so up until this point, we've been kind of primed for this. We've been primed for this, for relationship. And it's just getting deeper and deeper and sweeter and sweeter. So with that, I will share my screen. And Kalachandji, can you read the first verse for us?
Sure, just I need to. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence."
Thank you. So Krishna's basically saying here, Like, Arjuna, I'm about to tell you something really special. He calls it again the most confidential knowledge. Remember, this is the title of the chapter. Let's kind of commit that to memory. And he's saying, and I can share it with you because your heart is clean, meaning you're not envious of me. You're not envious of me. And up until now, Krishna has hinted at the highest path. We've talked about it a lot because as we go through the Gita, I'm kind of following in Prabhupada's footsteps of kind of revealing the conclusion of the Gita as we go through. But actually in the Gita, Krishna's hinted at this path, the process that gives the supreme result. So, but now in chapter 9, we're getting to the point where he's really opening up about it. And that's, again, this confidential truth. And that truth is that Krishna himself, God himself, is the object of our devotion. So he's the one to be worshipped. So in this knowledge, it's about how glorious, how personable, how lovable he is. And why does Krishna emphasize that Arjuna is non-envious? If we remember, this point is important, and this isn't even the first time that Krishna's made this point. Earlier in the Gita, in chapter 4, he says something similar when he says, "I'm telling you this because you are my dear friend." So the idea is that devotion and envy can't exist in the same heart. Devotion and envy can't exist in the same heart. It's like anybody ever been in a relationship with someone that you feel like is kind of envious of you, right? Or that you're kind of envious of? And we know from our experiences, like I'm assuming everybody here has had that kind of experience. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality of material consciousness. And so, but what happens is when you're envious of someone or you feel like somebody's envious of you, it kind of blocks the flow of love. I mean, not kind of, it does. It blocks the flow of love. So those two things can't exist simultaneously in its purest form. So devotion means that we love Krishna's greatness, his beauty, his compassion, his power. It melts our hearts. But envy happens when we resent his greatness. Like why is he so glorious? Like I want to be the great one. I want to be the powerful one. I want to be the most beautiful. I want to be the controller. This is when we envy God. So if someone hears about God but is secretly competing with him, if we could just make sure everybody's on mute. Okay, great. So if someone hears about God but is secretly competing with him, then hearing more of God's glories just makes their envy grow. And again, we've all experienced this on Instagram. You get on Instagram, you start to feel a little bit of jealous of somebody, and then they're like constantly on your feed. Your envy for them is just growing. It's just like manifesting in your mind. It's just like blowing up. Does this happen? I mean, this is part of being human. This is what happens. But when it happens in relationship with God, when we start being envious of God, it's a problem. And what happens is because God is so merciful, he doesn't want to increase anyone's own misery. So he doesn't reveal his sweetness to a heart that isn't ready. He's like, all right, I'm going to take myself off your feed so that it's not just feeding this envy. If that's what somebody's wired for, if that's what somebody's sitting in, he's saying, okay, I just will stop posting, basically. So it's actually a form of protection. He's keeping us from committing any more offenses, from getting further and further away from him, because we know as that envy grows, the room for love is being displaced. So he's just kind of saying, all right, I'll go off your feed. But if someone's devoted, even imperfectly, but if they're trying, if their heart's sincere, they're maybe messing up a bit. They maybe don't have it all down, but their heart is sincere. Krishna sees that heart, and he's going to reveal himself more and more. And the attraction will grow. The heart will soften. Krishna's, it's like the extreme algorithm. And we're so impressed with Instagram algorithms. They put on whatever you're talking about. No, Krishna knows what's in your heart. Because he's God. So he knows what's in your heart. And based off of that, his algorithm reveals himself. He reveals himself according to that algorithm. But it's connected to the heart. So if your heart is soft, Krishna reveals himself, your attraction grows. Your understanding deepens. And then Krishna says something beautiful. He says, I'm not just going to give you knowledge. He says, I'm going to give you knowledge and realization. And these two things are different. These two things are different. It's knowledge, we think it's more just like the facts about God, like the theory. But what's special about the path of bhakti is that it actually gives experience, the taste, the sweetness, the personal connection. We get to experience this in the path of bhakti. It's not just theoretical. So that's what Krishna's saying here. He's saying, I'm going to give you both the diagnosis and the treatment. The diagnosis is like the knowledge, the doctor explaining what's wrong. But realization is the prescription that actually heals you. So the doctor's not just telling you, why your stomach hurts and sending you home. He's saying, okay, here's what's wrong, but I'm also going to tell you how to fix it. And in that same way, Krishna's giving both the understanding and the practical process that brings transformation. And then what happens? This verse says, we become free from the miseries caused by our own future actions. So Krishna's not saying your life's going to be misery free right now. Unfortunately, none of us really get that in this world. But he's saying if you follow this process, you won't create more misery for yourself. And just like when we're sick, if we keep doing the things that aggravate the illness, our suffering increases. But if we follow the treatment, the sickness gradually fades. So similarly, bhakti clears away the things that create future suffering. So that's what this verse is saying. So as chapter 9 unfolds, Krishna's going to go deeper and deeper into the heart of bhakti. And the beautiful thing again about the Gita is that we've covered a lot of these themes in chapter 7. We've covered a lot of these themes, but we're expanding them now. We're enriching them. They're becoming even more intimate. Well, Krishna's expanding them. Krishna's enriching them. They're becoming more intimate. So this chapter is saying, let me tell you what's really in my heart and what I want your heart to experience too. Okay. So are we ready for this? Are we ready for this chapter? For this it's going to be revealed? Yeah, okay. Does anybody want to share anything before we move on to the second verse? Anything that's coming up?
I like the philosophy of diagnosis and treatment.
Mm-hmm.
That, the theory, but what is the use of just having the theory? We also get the ras. And, all these years, knowledge is so confidential, but it is so nice to know why it is confidential.
Mm.
That because Arjun is not envious, because Krishna is trying to give him the secret that, okay, this is the way you can love me. Come to me. That way you're just away from all the material miseries. So this is such a deep knowledge, and it is so nice to unfold all the secrets.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I feel the same way about understanding the reason that it's confidential. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's nice diagnosis and treatment.
Yes.
The
Bhakti is a complete path.
knowledge and the realization.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Anybody else? Thank you, Kay. Okay. Okay. Should we move on to the second verse? I'm sure there'd be lots more shares. And if anybody through the class has anything they want to share, anything they can connect to, just raise your hand and I'll stop and we can share. Okay, so let's go on to the second verse then. Kalachandji, when you're ready.
This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization. It is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed.
Thank you. So Krishna continues the praise from the last verse, but he's going even deeper. So again, where chapter 7 introduced bhakti, chapter 9 is expanding it fully. I like to always kind of picture like a lotus just opening and opening. This is what's happening as we're reading the Gita. It's just being revealed further and further and further. And whether you all know it or not, through this journey, the past year and a half, many of you have been here since the beginning. Your heart has been getting prepared for this. Your heart has been, and that's where we are. And that's how Krishna's walking us through the Gita. Our heart is slowly getting, the soil in our heart's getting slowly kind of tilled and ready to plant this seed of bhakti. That's what's happening. So Krishna calls this knowledge the king of education, the most confidential, the purest. He says joyfully, it's joyfully performed. And why so many superlatives here? Because he wants Arjuna and us to understand the life-changing power of bhakti. We should not take this for granted. So we'll go through these and dissect them all a little bit. So he says the king of knowledge, the king of knowledge. And he calls this the king of knowledge because among all kinds of knowledge, scientific, political, social, technological, it's only spiritual knowledge that can transform the inner person. And this was a realization that I had shortly after I came into Bhakti. You know, I was a nuclear engineer, and I worked on nuclear submarines for the Navy. And I went into nuclear engineering thinking, you know, this was a really powerful energy that was just misunderstood. And if it could be understood, it could be harnessed for good in this world. But shortly after going into that field, and not shortly after going into the field, shortly after coming into spiritual life, I realized, you know, there's actually an energy much stronger than nuclear energy. And that is the energy of the heart, right? And the energy that bhakti can awaken in the heart when we're connected to source, right? The transformation that can take place. That is ultimately the most powerful energy. And what difference can we see in the world if we can start transforming hearts? Yeah, like it's like even nuclear physics can destroy a city, but we can't destroy a single deep-rooted bad habit within it. It's just the power of the heart, the power of a transformed heart connected to source. I mean, it's unstoppable. Imagine the world with hearts transformed. So this is the power of bhakti, and this is why Krishna calls it pure and powerful. And by the way, all of you that are listening today, this is our mission in this life, is to transform hearts. Is to harness this energy. Right? Is to connect hearts to their original source so that they can be happy, they can be free, right? They can be loved and love. That's our mission here. Okay, so that's why Krishna calls it pure and powerful. And then he says it purifies at all levels. It's the purest knowledge. It purifies at all levels. And this is pretty interesting too. You know, we've talked about karma a good amount in this class. And we talked about how every action that you do, it creates a karmic seed. It creates a karmic seed. So whatever you're doing, there's a little seed that it's creating that's a product of that reaction, right? And sometimes those seeds are already sown. Like whatever you've done, you've seen the reaction because of it. Sometimes those seeds are growing, like the reaction's on its way, but we haven't seen it manifest yet. And sometimes it's created. So it hasn't even started growing yet. It's still just like in its little seed form. Okay. So, but bhakti is going to affect it at all these levels. It's going to burn those seeds that haven't yet sprouted. It's going to stop the reactions that are on the way. Right? And then it's going to purify the tendencies that cause the karma in the first place. So it's going to like kill those desires, like right at the root. So say you're like an alcoholic, it's gonna get rid of the longing to drink. That's what we're talking about here. This is the power of bhakti. It kills all of these karmic seeds. And unlike some religious practices that just deal with symptoms, we all have probably had experience with that. Just dealing with the symptoms. Bhakti is changing the very heart that created the karma. And this is why it's so powerful. Because it's not just changing what we do, it's changing why we do it. So bhakti doesn't just change what we do, it changes why we do it. And because of that, it purifies everything from our actions to our desires, like the whole thing. No other process can go this deep. This is the changing of the heart. This is the power of the changing of the heart. And the other thing that's beautiful about bhakti, and Aaron touched on this a little bit in our last class, is that it's universal. Bhakti is universal. And the Gita teaches this. It's part of our very nature. Just like it's the nature of oil to flow downward or a dog to bark. It's the nature of the soul to love and to serve God. This is who we are. We're not talking about some religious or a religion or a sect or a cult or whatever. Bhakti is the nature of the soul to love and to serve God. And the impulse to love something higher than ourselves, it's already within us. It's universal and it's timeless. It's been here forever, will be here forever, everywhere. We see this. We see this reflected across all traditions and cultures. Whether someone's worshiping Christ, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, the essence is the same, and the essence is a heart that's reaching out in love towards God. Now, the names and the forms, they may differ across time and culture, but the longing behind them is one. The longing to reconnect with divinity. But beyond even those differences, those superficial differences, bhakti remains the universal language of the heart. That is what is bhakti. So somebody says, I'm Christian, so I'm not bhakti. You could be both, right? You could be both. If bhakti is to love and to serve God, and it's the soul's desire to love and serve God. And maybe you practice that according to a set of Christian principles and the Christian path. But at your heart, you can still be bhakti because it's not limited, it's universal. And because it's part of our eternal nature, bhakti can never be destroyed. It's always there, even in that person that that is like maybe they identify as an atheist or bhakti's still in their heart. It's just covered or forgotten. What do you think, Stella? Are you talking today, Stella? Awesome.
Well, I didn't talk, but we do that. We go to St. Paul Lutheran Church. We're members, and we go like it's every Sunday we can. And it's just adding Krishna to that culture. We even brought our pastor and a couple of our faith formation person and another congregant to India, to Vrindavan. And when Pastor Katie preaches, I see her gazing at Radha Shyama and chanting in the kirtan. It's like I love it. Bhakti is just love in the heart. So whether culturally you try to love God through Christianity or what, it doesn't. There's no conflict.
Amazing. That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing, Stella.
I like that, you don't have to give up your own culture.
Yes.
You could just add Krishna.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. When my husband and I got married, what, maybe 6 years ago now? Maybe 5 years ago? He's Catholic, but he's gotten a lot more into his faith since we've been married. And he was telling me this week that he wants to go get our marriage blessed by a priest. And we were sitting down eating dinner yesterday, and his mom was here, and his mom was like, "Yeah, yeah, I think if that's what you guys want to do, then that's great," or something of that nature. And I said, um, it's not necessarily like important to me to do that, but I think it's wonderful how my husband's gotten more into his faith, and I want to support him on that. And then he told me we have like a class that we're going to on Sunday for this. And I was like, I'm kind of looking forward to that class. Like it's also kind of fun to see how other cultures and traditions do things, right? And it's fun to see all the like similarities and kind of connected, and because the essence is the same. We're all trying to develop love of God. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Stella. And so this is why teachers of bhakti don't try to convert anyone from one religion to another. This is this is why. They're just trying to help rediscover their own natural love for God, the devotion that's already inside of them. In fact, if somebody has a close relationship with their conception of God, Jesus maybe, Prabhupada would say that just encourage that. Just encourage them to chant the name of their God, the name that they call God. We don't have to try to change it. Is that we just want to we just want to fan the flame. That's what we want to do as bhakti teachers. We're not looking to teach a certain. We're just trying to fan the flame. And because it's that love that awakens, that transforms not just the individual, but then everybody around them. And we've all seen people like this too, that have so much love in their heart, and that as it awakens, it's changing everybody around them. Yeah. And we've all also seen people probably in the name of religion that it seems like their heart is kind of hard, right? That their religion or their path is making them more judgmental, right? Or the opposite of loving and accepting. Yeah. Again, not to judge, but just to notice the difference so that we can ask ourselves more sincerely, is this practice making me more loving, and making me more compassionate, making me more accepting? Because this is the measure of a path of when we're rightly situated in our path. It is when those things are happening. And so because that's the goal. It's just becoming these examples of divine love, spreading light in the world, carrying that love with you into the next. And we're just trying to plug into source so that we can be conduits of that love. What do you guys think? Maria, please share with us.
This class is always wonderful, but this is the most perfect class. Just beautiful. Everything everybody shares, everything you've said is just so on target. Thank you so much. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I don't understand how anybody could possibly feel that transcendental energy of Krishna and be jealous in any way. I mean, it's just so like you feel that, and it's just, I love you with my whole heart. It's total gratitude. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I feel like that's this bhakti path. A lot of the practices that we do, the chanting, the kirtan, they're made to do that. They're made to give us this experience so that we can translate, so that this knowledge is translated into this lived experience, to realization. And in that, just like you said, when you're experiencing that, naturally, there's no room for envy. There's not. So that's what I love about this path. It's so experiential in that. in that we experience that firsthand. It's not about following a set of rules, signing your name to I will do this, I won't do this, this is good, this is, in that it just remains it remains knowledge. And a lot of times not people don't really even understand the root of why they're doing what they're doing, right? It's like it's just very surface level. So I appreciate that, in that, we get to experience this love. That's the whole point. And that's where we're going next, and because the Gita reminds us this, that there's so much more to life than we can see or touch or measure. The Gita's teaching us about this spiritual dimension. And it's not somewhere far away. It's right here, right now, if we wake up. Because this ability to see spiritually, it's already within us. It's part of who we are. It's part of we're souls. And over time, that ability it's been lulled to sleep. It's been covered by distractions, comfort, endless chase for material happiness. So we have to wake back up. We have to wake back up. We have to turn inward and upward. Pull some energy away from all the things of this world that distract us and invest it in things that nourish the soul. Things like chanting, hearing, sacred wisdom, spending time with spiritually minded people. And this is when we start living the Gita. Instead of just reading it, we start living it. And that's what we're doing here. That's the whole purpose of this Sangha that we have, is so that we can share our lived experiences. Right? See them through the eyes of Sastra. And little by little, what happens is our perceptions change. The things that maybe felt abstract or far away, like God's love, the soul, like the idea of devotion, right? What's devotion? No, it starts to feel real, just like Maria's saying. It starts to feel real. We start to experience it. And in that moment, what we've learned becomes what we live. So this is when spirituality stops becoming theory and it starts becoming experience. What do you think, Aaron?
I love everything that is being discussed. I think this is like really what has attracted me so much to this path, the universalism of it. But it's so interesting that you just saying like, what does that mean? It's, devotion. I remember like when I first, very first at the beginning, like reading the journey within and like trying to like tell other people, like, well, what is bhakti? I'm like, oh, it's the yoga of devotion. I'm like, but don't ask any follow-up questions because I don't really understand beyond that. And like, I'm working on it, It's like, it was really hard to like explain at first, I feel. Um, but I really love what Stella just said about like culture and it's like about like the perspective of just adding Krishna to whatever culture. So I had a discussion with Mukunda from the Kirtan Center not too long ago about culture because I've struggled a little bit with like the adoption of like external things like clothes or things that are like, I mean, even sometimes some of the stories or the leelas, it's like I don't know what a ladu is, or like, just like wrapping your head around or like that extension of being like, oh, that's not the culture I grew up with anyways. But then we were just talking and he had shared that like the it learning about this from a very different culture allowed him to like think and I agreed with it. So, I'm sharing from my perspective as well. Like it allowed us to like gave us permission almost to like think about God in a totally different way than the culture that we grew up in. And then like from a difference from like the religion that, we were like hurt from, and so it just made me realize that like it's very nuanced, like this relationship that I have with this different culture and this different path, and that, like, yes, in some ways I feel like I struggle with it, but in other ways, like, it is what gave me that permission of, like, of even being able to think of God as, like, playful or
Mm,
mischievous,
mm,
or as a kid, just like, and because of the background of like, just awe and reverence is God, and that
mm.
is it, and it's this path or no path, right? Like a very closed door, like approach, closed-minded approach to divinity. And so I just think it's so interesting, this aspect of culture, and how, um like with everything with bhakti, right? It's not black and white, like it's super nuanced.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. And it's such a beautiful point too. Yeah. It's like it's like a new relationship almost. You don't have to carry the yuck you had from the past one because it's so ever fresh that it's in that way. It's kind of like a second chance. Yeah, that's really nice. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and I hear you about, when people ask you what you are, because that's what we like to do in the West, right? People like to ask what you are. Oh, are you Catholic? Are you Christian? Are you Protestant? That's what we can kind of understand, what we can kind of wrap when we can put things in a box, then it makes sense to us. We feel like we got it or something. And
Well, and
I feel
even
this,
like, oh, so you're Hindu, and it's like,
yeah,
well, okay,
yeah,
but
yeah. I just say I practice bhakti yoga. Bhakti is love and devotion for God. And I have resonated with some practices that help me do that, such as chanting, and meditation. But I don't identify as a particular religion. So it's kind of it's like, and I like that. I don't want to identify as, I'm a Hindu. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think Hindu is like the word that the British gave to Indians. Like it's not even like a anyway, we don't need to get into it. So I feel you. I hear you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Should we move on? We have one more kind of topic before we end for today. And we're going to kind of double click on this knowledge and realization. Knowledge and realization. And this is a true magic of some of these practices. Just like Maria was saying, chanting, kirtan, is the transformation from knowledge to realization. Because true realization happens when three things harmonize. When our experiences, what life puts in front of us, harmonize with how our experiences are reflections, like how we interpret what's going on. When this harmonizes with what Krishna reveals through scripture and mercy. And again, this is what we're doing here on this podcast. This is the whole purpose of this podcast, so that this knowledge is put forth and we can all kind of relate to it. We can say, "Oh yeah, I kind of remember a time when that this happened to me." And then we can kind of reflect on it in a way that also aligns with what we're learning. Yeah, and when all these things harmonize, when we learn to see our experiences through the lens of the Gita, then what happens is this truth becomes personal. It's not just philosophical. And this is the difference between knowledge, between just coming to a class and hearing and taking some notes and coming to a class and really, and this is what I encourage all of you to do here that come live and that are even listening not live, is to try to relate with what we're learning in your own life in a way that your perceptions start to change a little bit and to then become a little bit more in line with the philosophy of the Gita, because this is when this knowledge becomes realization. This is when this knowledge becomes realization. And another thing, so this is realization blossoms when we have the right attitude, right? When we have spiritual vision, and most importantly, through the mercy of the devotees. Through the mercy of the devotees. And this point, we can't take for granted, right? How important association is, how important it is to all come here together, to all share together, to learn from each other, to connect to each other, to, to be together in this journey. It's so important, right? To have teachers that guide us to get this mercy. So important. And there's this beautiful story in Sastra that demonstrates how important this is. And this is that of Nārada Muni's story. Do you guys know Nārada Muni's story? So Nārada Muni, he was born the son of a maidservant. He had no education, he had no status, but his mother served great sages. And little Narada helped her. And so by serving these devotees, by hearing their conversations, by accepting, little scraps of their food with humility, his heart awakened. And he wasn't a master of the scriptures, but he received mercy from these sages. And that mercy revealed everything. So through this association, he developed a taste for hearing and chanting about God. And that taste grew into love. And so this story, it shows that his realization, it doesn't depend on learning. It depends on association. Even a moment in the presence of genuine devotees can plant the seed of love for God because they carry in their hearts, and then they awaken him in ours. Right? They carry him in their hearts, and through that, it's awakened in our hearts. So this is so important. So we don't have to sit in our rooms all by ourselves trying to memorize as many slokas as possible. Seek association of devotees. Seek association of these great saints and sages, people that are really practicing this, people that really live this, that really carry God in their hearts, because this mercy is so powerful and so transformational. Yeah. So when we live with sincerity, we see through the scripture, we open ourselves up to the mercy of devotees. This is when Krishna reveals himself from within. So this is when this knowledge turns into vision, when devotion stops being an idea and becomes a way of seeing life itself. Right? And this is what we're going for. And we don't need to pray for suffering or situations that to bring this up in our life. Like they'll come. And what we want are situations that will stretch us towards God without breaking us. So if you think about it, we have when we go through life and we have all these experiences, well, sometimes we're just living in our comfort zone, right? Everything's comfortable, everything's easy, and sometimes we can get a little too comfortable, and we're not really challenged to grow. And then on the opposite side of that, sometimes it's like life is so overwhelming that it's like, we call this the panic zone. It's like we're just surviving. We're just like treading water. And so we want to situate our lives so that we're more in this kind of middle ground, this stretch zone, right? It's like steady expansion. We're being pushed a little bit, but not so much that we're like completely overwhelmed. And yeah, so this is the hot spot for spiritual growth in life, this stretch zone, right in the middle. Right? And bhakti grows best here, where we step just beyond our comfort. And in this, we're relying on God for strength and grace. So that's kind of bringing it back to practical, right? Devotee association, so important. And just try to situate our lives so that we're kind of hanging out in the stretch zone. Not the comfort zone, not the panic zone, the stretch zone. That's where we want to be. Okay, so now we'll just zoom way out before we conclude here, just to see the progression of the Gita, where we've been, where we're going. Chapter 2 started with you are the soul. We learned all about the soul. We learned the difference between the body and the soul. This is so important. This is spiritual knowledge. not necessarily devotional, but it's spiritual, the difference between the body and the soul. And then as we progress through chapters 3 through 6, we learned how to realize that soul through action and detachment, this karma yoga. And then we learned that once you realize the soul, you start to realize that there's a supreme soul that you can connect with. Yeah, and so in that we arrive at this bhakti yoga. And that's where we get to chapter 7. Krishna introduces himself clearly. And now we're in chapter 9. Krishna's becoming fully central. Devotion is the focus. So at this point, he's not just teaching philosophy, he's inviting us into relationship. So this is the progression of where we've gotten and where we are. Right? And the last thing I want to hit on before we open up for reflections here is this, in this verse in chapter 2. He says it's joyful. It's joyfully performed. Bhakti is joyfully performed. And what we should understand here is that this joy, it doesn't come from the activity. It doesn't come from what we're doing. It comes from the connection. And again, we've all experienced this. You go on vacation, some of the best days are the rainy days where there's nothing to do, right? Because you're sitting around, you're connecting, or you're creating these memories, where you feel connected, you feel, hey, that's because the joy comes from the connection, not the activity. And bhakti is the same, right? What we're experiencing is connection. These activities are a vehicle for that, right? But we're experiencing connection. And in that connection, as we practice, Krishna purifies us. Krishna guides us. Krishna gives us the intelligence to interpret life spiritually. Krishna becomes the source of our happiness. So even though the process requires effort, the heart is feeling lighter, it's feeling cleaner, it's feeling more connected over time. And this is the joy of bhakti. It's not sentimentality, but it's spiritual alignment. So that's what we're doing here. This is the first 2 verses of chapter 9 of the Gita. I think we have a good amount of time for some reflection, so I'd love to hear from you all. Somebody break the ice. Go
I'll do
first.
it.
Jennifer, great.
I'll do it. So in talking about reciprocation, I didn't really understand that, when I first came into bhakti. So it took some experience with this and some fails and some successes and just climbing the stairs to bhakti. And in learning or feeling like I finally have a personal relationship with Krishna, it is a formation of different types of relationships at different times. So at times, absolute master, beg for mercy, help me, guide me, that. And friend, for me, it can then change into more friendship, and it's a little more playful and, really joyful. And then, lover too is like amped up friendship, and I have to learn more about my lover, to make the relationship stay. I've never had a successful marriage. I've had 2 of them. So I don't know anything about relationships. So I'm learning through this. And, and finally, I think the ultimate is wanting to serve Krishna as a parent. I'm not there. I know it exists, but through my prayer, I can tell, and like my puja in the morning and all this, my rituals that I do, I can tell by feeling what I'm feeling like in my dedication as to where I am within that relationship.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's really important, and sometimes I don't want to be around it. It's like a true relationship. You do it anyway, you cook dinner anyway, but I might not have any feeling in it. And I think all of that's okay. It's just tell the truth. Sometimes I'm really angry,
Hmm.
and I've been sad, I've been mad, I've been glad, but learning how to come back to that stretch zone with those emotions
Hmm.
has saved my life. So there's
Mm.
no more of this, really. It's coming back to center. It might take a couple of days if I'm in one of those emotions pretty hard, but it's easier to get there now because of this
Mm.
relationship.
Yes. Perfect. So nice. Thank you for sharing. Beautiful realizations. Anyone else? Kay, please share with us.
I wanted to talk about, in connection with what Aaron said, that I can understand, how this is a totally new culture for so many people who were not exposed to Krishna consciousness or the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and all that. Uh, and it is, but there are I don't know how to say this, that there are so many people who are exposed, I mean, who were exposed in the childhood, but still they are not connected.
Mm.
They are not connected. So I think it is happening to only those who are so fortunate uh, to get connected, not just to Bhagavad Gita, but I'm talking about any religious thing, because the underlying thing is the same, that connect with the Supreme. Like, see, when we came to United States in the beginning, I used to love going to the church whenever, it is so peaceful, so nice to sit. Although I was exposed to, but it is about where we get connected, where we get the peace. So
Mm.
slowly and gradually, then coming back to Krishna consciousness, and then learning more about Krishna. Oh, we can establish relationship with him. So
Mm.
what I'm saying is, although we are exposed, but we are not. It is just being so fortunate to finally getting connected to the Supreme, some way or the other.
Yes. Yes. So nice. Thank you. Thank you,
You're
Kay.
welcome. You're welcome.
Do you have anything else for us, Aaron?
But I just really appreciate that. I think it's always like the grass is always greener, right? Like you
Mm.
think like, oh, if I were born in India, or if I had, learned about this earlier and got to live in an ashram, if like, all these ifs. And I think it's so great because Kay, I feel like you bring us back like over and over again that like, yeah, that it's not necessarily so true, right? Like there's a lot of nuance to it, and yeah, it's really good to be reminded of that.
Mm. So funny. Our material mind does like to think like, oh, if things were set up like this, I would have more of an opportunity to practice my spiritual life. Or when really it's like Arjuna was in the middle of a battlefield. Arjuna was in the middle of a battle. I mean, what better example do we have of like, do your duty, you do your duty, but do it thinking of me, right? Do it in service to me. And for us, like, no matter what you have going on in life or what your cultural circumstances are, or we can all think of God in what we're doing. Yeah, we can all think of God in what we're doing. So, so nice. Thank you. Oh, I'm just seeing the chat here. We don't have Shakti to help us read the chat. Mariah says, Hare Krishna, thank you for all the shares. Jennifer, I love your share, noticing your relationship and where it is at. I think too, I often see how my personal relationships here reflect my relationship with Krishna too. Yeah.
Before we leave, I want to know, about Jennifer. She just got back from pilgrimage. Is there anything she would like to say about the pilgrimage and what was the fun?
Well, yes, yes. Thank you for asking. Zoe, who's on the call too, is she still? I don't see the pictures.
She just had to leave. I think she had to
Oh, okay.
hop out
So
early.
Zoe was on pilgrimage with me. So Vedaji, a monk at the Atlanta temple, organizes retreats every year. And I decided it's now time to go. And so we had a really easy landing at GEV. And I thought that was India, right? So I'm like wearing cute clothes and we're bopping around and going to lunch when it's scheduled and, going to bed and getting some reading time, walking around doing japa. And then we go to Rishikesh, and it's like, wow, that's India. And going to all the temples and pressed in line with so many people all over the world that are seeking something, it might not be bhakti, but they're seeking something. And really trying to learn about the temples and why they're there and who they're there for. And really getting into these amazing like Mother Ganges. And there's just the power of that is beyond anything I've ever felt. Just standing in her, is just illuminating. And it's a little scary. It was a little scary for me. It was like, so I think I'm pretty special, at times. And then no, it's like, oh my God, I can get wiped out in a second.
Ah.
Get wiped out anywhere in the temples, anywhere. It's just so powerful. And then we went to Govardhan, and that's a whole different feel too. But seeing the poverty, I've been sheltered my whole life. I'm embarrassed to say it, but I have been. And seeing that type of poverty and people still happy and still like, we went to the widows too, and they were doing kirtan, and then we raised some money, and then I got to dance with them and sing with them, and they were happy in the moment, and I need to remember that even no matter what my level is in this world, where my social economic standard is, um, I can find happiness at any time, enjoy at any time, as long as I'm following these principles.
Mm.
So that's my takeaway from, pilgrimage and then being with other people, because the emotions go kind of crazy with everybody. People get sick, you know, and, a lot of people on our trip got sick, and just dealing with everybody's different emotions, but somehow staying cohesive, through Veda, who kept us cohesive. And so that helped our relationships with people, other devotees. So now we have a sangha.
Mhm.
So I I went when I went. I had opportunities years before, but I don't know that I was ready to go. It's a lot. I think. I think it was. It's a lot. It was a lot, and I loved every minute of it. Even the, driving through and seeing some horrible things. I think I needed to wake up. And I needed to wake up.
Wow.
So it was so, the poverty and the other things that we see, the widows and um, so much that we don't get to see here. And still we complain, oh, this and that. So in a way, it is nice to go there and see altogether the different level, right, of way of living and um, and the religious, and the connection with the Supreme.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So nice. Thank you for sharing, Jennifer. And thank you all for coming and sharing your hearts and working to make this knowledge, not just knowledge, but lived experience, realization. That's what we're doing here. So thank you. And I'll see you all on Monday.
See you. Hare Krishna.